This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley.
Good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Monday, April 7th of 2025. We are so glad you can join us for today's show on this beautiful spring day. In today's episode, I have a double feature from BASF Ag Commodity Classic. I'll be visiting with Josh Putman and Brady Spangenberg about some of the things going on as we head into planting season of 2025. Also have a check of the closing markets with agmarket.net. But first, I've got Brady Spangenberg. He is the marketing director of U.S. Crop Protection with BASF, and we talk about the product pipeline heading into 2025. Looking ahead to 2025, what are some of the things that you guys are looking forward to?
2025 is a big year for us. We have three major launches in the pipeline. We talk a lot about R&D, and we spend 10% of our sales back and put it back into innovation. 25 is the year where that then comes back to the market. So with Liberty Ultra herbicide, the best Liberty yet, also Certain herbicide, I know in Iowa, there's a real rush to make sure that, get your corn crop to canopy with as weed-free and stress-free as possible. So those are two big launches that we have out there in the market, and we're excited to see how those go.
And of course, that really kind of targets a lot of the main issues that we've been seeing, especially in Iowa, is that weed pressure. So being able to get up early and have those seeds ready and available to go is obviously a great thing for that.
It's a great thing. It also offers different alternatives, different modes of action in different use patterns. And that's really when we talk about innovation, it's not just old stuff in a new jug. It really is finding the right agronomic tool and path to help growers be as efficient and as be as efficient as possible, and allow those crops to really grow and breathe without the hassles of weeds and pests.
And of course, having that wide array of tools in the toolbox, very important through the BASF portfolio, a wide array of options there as well.
Wide array of options, and also we want to support the early business planning. So we've been talking about this most of the fall and also spring here, is our commitment to planning, and that comes with our 0% financing offer through John Deere Finance, Rabobank, and other partners. We're really encouraging folks to work with their local retailers and put a plan together, because we know, the best agronomic outcome usually comes with a solid plan, not a reactionary plan. And so we want to support that early planning with the best agronomic program possible before we get into season, and then everything so it just gets busy.
Right, especially we don't know year to year how input prices are going to look, how just the general economy is going to look. So having that plan, getting those things set in place, not only great financially, but also great mentally as well, just to have that security.
Absolutely. And even in a down farm economy, we continue to remind our reps and our team and our retailers and also growers out there that this isn't a time just to rest on your old plan. We still are encouraging people to test, trial new things. So we're putting out for 25 a yield challenge on fungicides, calling it the Real Results Yield Challenge. And what we want to do is, for anyone that's on the fence about using a fungicide, for anyone that's sort of been burnt in the past by environmental stresses or strange diseases cropping into their crop, give us a try, work with your local retailer, map out a plot, and see how it goes, because we think that even in a down economy, protecting your bushels, expanding your footprint, your bushel footprint is really critical.
All right, Brady, for anyone who would like to get in touch for anything that we talked about today, where can they find that information?
Contact your local BASF rep, or walk into your local ag retailer, authorized ag retailer, and they'll have all the information we discussed.
Also had the chance to visit with Josh Putman. He's a technical marketing manager with BASF about Certain corn herbicide and some of the things specifically on that end that they are looking forward to in this next crop season. We're getting really close to the planting season at this point, especially on the corn side of things. Looking at the herbicide options, you guys have Certain herbicide What are some of the things you guys are looking forward to with that herbicide this year?
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Riley. Glad to be here at Commodity Classic with you. Standing here this time last year, we were talking about Certain herbicide, and we were extremely excited about that. But we're even more excited to have Certain herbicide available for commercial use this year. A lot of our customers brought Certain in and are going to get a good look at it. The reason we're so excited about this product is it really opens up a whole new window for our farmers. There are a lot of weed species out there, the two pigweed species in particular, water hemp and Palmer amaranth, that can start emerging really early in the growing season, all the way later into, call it midsummer. So that application window for Certain is going to be extremely beneficial to farmers. You know, with Certain herbicide, it's bringing in a new mode of action, so offering this two sites of action, if you will, being a Group 14 and a Group 15 herbicide. Going to set yourself up early in the season with this pre-emerge herbicide, and then bringing in those post-applications like Status herbicide and Zidua SC, layering those residuals in to keep those weeds under control until we get corn canopy closure.
Right, and we know those weeds, like you mentioned, Palmer amaranth, water hemp, very, very prolific throughout the Corn Belt, and also very easy to reproduce. If you let those get started, I mean, there's really no way of going back at that point. So like you mentioned, having that start ahead of time, very, very important to managing these weeds.
Yeah, you know, something that weed scientists have been saying for a long time is it's very important to start clean and stay clean. So if you're in an area of the Midwest where effective tillage or a spring burn down application is your primary first pass weed control, then you come in with a product like Certain herbicide, which brings that residual power at controlling weeds like Palmer and water hemp to hold those weeds at bay until we get into that early emerging corn, and we can come back through and clean up those later flushes, if you will. Because yeah, certainly the biology of water hemp and Palmer, once they get out of the ground, it's off to the races. In some cases, those weeds can grow over an inch per day. So your management options start to become pretty limited, especially the way the weather patterns have been the last 2 years. In 2023 being a hot and dry situation, 2024 in parts like Iowa, northern Iowa, where the excessive amount of rainfall made those post-applications difficult.
So then we're looking at these application windows for Certain and every other application drive that you would want to make. When exactly are we looking to make those applications for the maximum efficiency on that corn crop?
Yeah, so for Certain herbicide, it's really going to depend on the weed species you're trying to control on what program you set up. But what we've been recommending is that Certain herbicide be used as a pre-emerge herbicide. You know, in a lot of cases, atrazine or an HPPD product can be added to Certain to give you a little bit more residual. But our national message has been Certain at 14 fluid ounces on those medium type soils as a pre-emerge herbicide. That gives you 8 weeks of residual, which now puts you into that early post-corn time frame where that really sets you up for a product like Status herbicide along with some residual chemistry added to it to really clean up any of those later emerging flushes of weeds that we may have. So certainly starting early, staying clean, and then bring Certain herbicide into that program, and then Status in that early post application to start clean and stay clean to get you into that combine in the fall and see that yield monitor.
Like you've mentioned a little bit already, there's that flexibility on what products you want to use, what weeds you want to target, and of course a great variety within the BASF corn herbicide portfolio to tackle those different problems, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's one thing that we're extremely proud of at BASF is the diversity in the portfolio that we have, especially in the corn portfolio. So Certain brings this new window of opportunity and ties really nicely with a product that we've had for a long time, and that's Verdict herbicide. So those two fit really well into that pre-emerge timing for our corn herbicides. And then you're bringing in a different site of action, a different way to control weeds in that Status herbicide, bringing 2 active ingredients, 2 different sites of action, right? So if you start with Certain, If you add an atrazine and an HPPD in there, that's bringing 4 different sites of action. With status, you're getting 2, and then you throw Roundup in there, you're essentially up to 7 to 8 different sites of action at controlling these weeds, which we feel is extremely important, is diversifying your management strategies and rotating your sites of action.
All right, Josh, for anyone who would like to get in touch and check out that corn herbicide portfolio themselves, how can they do that?
Yeah, so as always, reach out to your local BASF representative, but then you can visit us online at agriculture.basf.us for more information.
Thanks again to the folks at BASF for always providing great conversation at these ag events. We'll go ahead and take a look at the closing market prices next, but first, here's a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and we're talking now with Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for a closing market summary. Robin, it's been very, very volatile over the past few market days in the ag marketplace. What are we seeing in the grains?
Well, today we saw the grains, you could kind of say somewhat stabilize, except, they were higher early overnight and early in the morning. Then they fell back somewhat to a little negative, and then they came back again, and that was because of the wild swing in the equity markets. What was dominating, obviously, on Thursday, more so Friday, and then today is the tariff situation. There was a report that President Trump was going to initiate a 90-day tariff pause, and that took everything back up again. We saw the stock market the Dow from 1,000 lower to 1,000 higher, and then it fell back again 1,000 lower because CNBC said that the White House was not aware of any kind of a pause. So, and actually, President Trump announced that he was going to add 50% tariffs onto China again on the 9th. If they don't take off their 34% tariffs, they reciprocated back on us. So it's just really a wild type of a situation. And it's almost like you can't turn away from the screen for 5 minutes and it's completely different. So traders are going to be reluctant to hold long-term positions in this kind of a volatility. The export inspections today were good for corn and soybeans, not quite so good for wheat. Whether that really makes any kind of a difference at this point in time, probably not. But corn was 1.583 million metric ton. The average estimate was 1.3. Year-to-date inspections so far, 27% higher than a year ago. So we are seeing some positive things in the fundamental side of the market. Beans at 804,270 metric ton. The average estimate was 675,000. Year-to-date export inspections are 8% ahead of last year. Wheat was at 334,888 metric ton. The average estimate was 400,000. But year-to-date export inspections are 16% ahead of last year. So that's a fundamental aspect under the market that is positive. Now, a few other positive things is Vietnam offered to eliminate all tariffs on U.S. goods on a 45-day delay on their implementation of 46% tariffs set to begin on April 9th. Taiwan will not retaliate, but will remove trade barriers and increase U.S. investments. So that's some positive things came out. The EU actually said they wanted to remove everything and they wanted a zero tariffs back and forth. So there are things that are happening. Maybe they're going to be positive in the bigger picture, but the uncertainty right now has created so much volatility in this market that we really don't know where we're at. Now, Ag Secretary Rollins confirmed that financial aid for farmers is in discussion already for the upcoming year on top of the the 10 billion worth of aid for the ECAP program, which is in place right now. They're looking at more in that. And then over the weekend, too, there was some flooding in some areas of the Midwest, Ohio River Valley, quite a bit of rain in some areas, which is really going to delay plantings in those areas. It's still early yet at this point, but if we continue to see a little bit more of that type of situation, there's going to be some delayed planting, but there's going to be some that are looking at potentially increasing or plantings to begin in a not too distant future.
And then on the other side of things, Robin, with the livestock marketplace, things are also pretty negative there as well.
Yeah, the livestock took a beating. We saw 3 days decrease in live cattle of over $12. And the feeder cattle, the June live cattle and the May feeder cattle down $15.50 in the past 3 days. I mean, the market gapped lower last week and Friday morning and hasn't looked back. Now it gapped lower this morning again. It did come back to fill that gap. So we do have a gap that's sitting up there in both live cattle and feeder cattle, and generally those gaps are filled. But in again, who knows when that could be at this point in time. The concern is a recession that could come into play on top of the situation with some tariffs, maybe decreasing some international demand, but a recession in the U.S. could reduce some of that consumer demand. And that's one of the things that's a real concern. Southern live cattle last week were down $1 to $2 on cash trade. Northern dressed $4 lower for the majority of the trade. There were a few that traded, at steady money. Box beef at midday. Choice was up $2.21. Select up $1.97 on the hog side. They didn't decline quite as much as cattle, but they were down quite a bit. They suffered triple-digit losses again today. But April was higher, and that goes off the board next Monday. But that's going to stay right close to where the cash index is, what they're anticipating. So we don't see the volatility in that. Now, China's adding 34% tariffs, on the U.S. goods, and pork is going to be part of that. And China's a big pork buyer, so that's keeping the market really negative from that standpoint. Again, as with cattle, there are chart gaps that were left 2 days ago in the hog market that may be filled, but again, we'll have to wait and see on that. Now at noon, cutouts were up $1.36. The national daily direct cash prices were not reported today due to packer confidentiality. But again, with the livestock, as with the grain, most of the thing that's rolling the markets right now is the tariff situation.
All right, Robin, lots of great information today for anyone who would like to get in touch, learn more, and visit with the team at agmarket.net. How can they do that?
Well, they can call me directly if they would like. That's 877-256-3253, or call into our website, agmarket.net. There's an 844 number listed there. Feel free to call in and somebody will be glad to talk with you.
All right, Robin, thanks again for your time as always, and we look forward to chatting again soon.
All right, thank you. It's always a pleasure.
That again was Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. We'll take a look at how the numbers close through the market window at iowaagnet.com. May corn up 4 1/4 at 464 1/2. May soybeans up 6 even at 983 even. May soybean meal up 5.30 at 288.40. May soybean oil down 69 cents at 45.15. Chicago wheat up 7 1/2 at 536 1/2. Kansas City hard red winter wheat up 1 3/4 at 559 1/4. Minneapolis spring wheat up 9 1/2 at 594 even. May oats down 6 even at 336 3/4. On the Merc, April live cattle down 370 at 198.92. April feeders down $1.60 at 277.82. May lean hogs down $1.05 at 84.07. May pork cutout down $5.50 at 93.87. And April class 3 milk up 9 cents at 17.10. That's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. That also brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and TikTok, and find previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos and all of our video content go live. Don't forget as well to check out our free morning, midday, and closing market podcasts on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean, as well as on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network website, iowaagnet.com, under the podcast tab. From the IRN Broadcasting Studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson, Andy Peterson, and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.